In the quaint town of Eldridge, nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, lived Amelia Hartley and her husband, Victor. Their marriage, now a decade old, was the envy of many. Amelia, a graceful woman in her mid-30s, with auburn hair that cascaded like autumn leaves and eyes that sparkled with unwavering trust, had met Victor during her final year at university. He was charming, ambitious, and seemed to embody everything she dreamed of in a partner. Victor, tall and broad-shouldered, with a perpetual smile that hid his calculating nature, worked as a real estate developer, turning old properties into modern havens. Their home, a sprawling Victorian mansion on the outskirts of town, was a testament to his success. A place filled with antique furniture, high ceilings, and an attic that Amelia rarely ventured into, dismissing it as a dusty storage space for forgotten relics. The mansion had been in Amelia's family for generations, inherited from her late parents along with a substantial estate. Her sister, Eliza, had been her closest confidant growing up. Eliza was the wild one, with fiery red hair and a spirit that refused to be tamed. But tragedy struck 5 years before Amelia's marriage, when Eliza vanished during a hiking trip. The authorities declared her dead after an exhaustive search yielded no body, only her backpack tangled in river reeds. Amelia grieved deeply, but Victor was her rock, helping her navigate the legalities of the inheritance. With Eliza presumed dead, the entire property passed to Amelia, and Victor seamlessly integrated himself into managing it all. Their life together was a picture of domestic bliss. Mornings began with shared coffee on the sun-drenched porch, where Victor would regale Amelia with stories of his latest deals. Afternoons were spent in the garden, where Amelia tended to her roses, their petals a vibrant contrast to the mansion's sombre stone facade. Evenings often involved intimate dinners, candlelight flickering across Victor's face as he professed his undying love. "You're my everything, Amelia," he'd say, his hand gently squeezing hers. She believed him, why wouldn't she? He had been there through her darkest days, turning her sorrow into stability. But subtle cracks began to appear, almost imperceptible at first. Victor's late nights at the office became more frequent, excused by important clients or unexpected paperwork. He'd return smelling faintly of dust and something metallic, like old keys or rusted locks. Amelia chalked it up to his work ethic. Then there were the sounds, faint thumps from above, especially at night. "It's just the house settling," Victor would assure her, pulling her closer in bed. "These old places have souls of their own." Amelia laughed it off, but a nagging unease lingered, like a shadow in the corner of her eye. One crisp autumn morning, as Amelia sorted through old family albums in the living room, she stumbled upon a photo of Eliza from their last family vacation. Eliza's smile was infectious, her arm slung around Amelia's shoulder. A wave of nostalgia hit her, followed by a sharp pang of loss. "I miss her so much," she whispered to herself. Victor, overhearing from the kitchen, approached with a sympathetic hug. "She's in a better place now, darling. We have each other." His words were comforting, yet his eyes darted upward for a split second toward the attic. As the days turned into weeks, Amelia's routine included volunteering at the local library, where she escaped into books of mystery and intrigue. Ironically, these stories mirrored her growing suspicions. She began noticing inconsistencies in Victor's stories about the past. He claimed to have met Eliza only once, but old letters suggested otherwise. "Perhaps I'm overthinking," she told her best friend Clara over tea one afternoon. Clara, a sharp-witted librarian with glasses perched on her nose, raised an eyebrow. "Trust your instincts, Amelia. Sometimes the heart knows before the mind." Victor's protectiveness over the attic grew. He kept it locked, claiming it was unsafe due to structural issues. When Amelia suggested hiring a contractor to fix it, he dismissed the idea vehemently. No need to waste money. I'll handle it myself. His tone was final, leaving no room for argument. That night, as rain pelted the windows, Amelia lay awake, listening. There it was again, a muffled scrape, like furniture being moved. Heart pounding, she slipped out of bed and tiptoed to the hallway. The attic door was at the end, its keyhole glinting in the moonlight. She pressed her ear against the wood, but all was silent. Shaking her head, she returned to bed, convincing herself it was the wind. The following week, Victor announced a business trip to the city, leaving Amelia alone for the first time in months. "I'll be back in 3 days," he said, kissing her forehead. As his car disappeared down the driveway, a sense of freedom washed over her. She decided to clean the house thoroughly, starting with the basement and working her way up. In the basement, amid boxes of old documents, she found a file labelled Estate Papers. Curiosity piqued, she opened it. Inside were deeds, wills, and a letter from Eliza dated just before her disappearance. "Dear Amelia," it read, "if anything happens to me, know that I've hidden something important in the attic. Trust no one." Amelia's blood ran cold. What could Eliza have meant? Driven by a mix of fear and determination, Amelia searched for the attic key. She found it hidden in Victor's desk drawer, tucked behind a false panel. With trembling hands, she ascended the creaky stairs to the attic door. Inserting the key, she turned it, but the lock resisted. Frustrated, she jiggled it until it clicked. The door swung open, revealing a steep staircase shrouded in darkness. Dust motes danced in the beam of her flashlight as she climbed. The attic was larger than she remembered, filled with cobweb-covered trunks and forgotten furniture. In the far corner, a makeshift partition caught her eye, a wall that didn't belong. Approaching it, she noticed a faint light seeping from beneath. Her heart raced as she pushed against it. It gave way, revealing a hidden room. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the scent of confinement. A small bed, a table with remnants of food, and chains bolted to the floor. But no one was there. Confused and terrified, Amelia backed away, her mind reeling. What was this place? As she descended, her phone buzzed, a text from Victor. "Miss you already? Everything okay?" She replied affirmatively, but doubt gnawed at her. That night, sleep evaded her. Dreams of Eliza haunted her, calling from the shadows. The next morning, she confided in Clara, who urged her to investigate further. "This sounds like something out of a thriller novel," Clara said. "Be careful." Amelia spent the day poring over old records at the library. She discovered discrepancies in the police report of Eliza's disappearance. Witnesses claimed to have seen her with Victor the day she vanished, but he had an alibi. Digging deeper, she found a newspaper clipping. "Local woman missing, foul play suspected." The article mentioned a potential motive, the family fortune. Amelia's world tilted. Could Victor be involved? Returning home, she heard the thump again, louder this time. Armed with a poker from the fireplace, she stormed the attic. The hidden room was as before, but now a tray of fresh food sat on the table. Someone had been here recently. Panic set in. She called Clara, who arrived promptly. Together, they searched the room, finding a journal under the mattress. The entries were in Eliza's handwriting. Day 1825. Still alive, but for how long? Victor says it's for the property. Amelia must never know. Amelia collapsed, tears streaming. Her sister was alive? Imprisoned by her own husband? The betrayal cut deep, a knife twisting in her heart. Clara comforted her. "We need proof. Let's set a trap." As the sun set, Amelia hid in the attic, waiting. Hours passed in agonizing silence. Then, footsteps. The partition creaked open, and Victor entered, carrying supplies. "Eliza, I brought your dinner," he said softly. From the shadows, Amelia watched in horror as a gaunt figure emerged. Eliza, alive but broken. The morning after the attic revelation dawned grey and heavy, the kind of sky that presses down on your shoulders like unspoken accusations. Amelia woke up alone in the king-size bed she had shared with Victor for 10 years. The sheets on his side were cold, untouched since the night before when he'd left for what he called an early site visit. She lay there staring at the ceiling, the ornate plasterwork blurring as tears welled up again. Every creak of the old house now felt like a whisper from Eliza upstairs. Alive, trapped, betrayed by the same man who had promised to love and protect them both. She forced herself out of bed. Routine was her anchor now, the only thing keeping the panic from swallowing her whole. In the kitchen, she made coffee the way Victor liked it, black, no sugar, but poured only 1 cup. The aroma filled the air, mocking the emptiness. As the machine gurgled, she pulled out her phone and opened the hidden camera app she'd installed the previous night in a frenzy of whispered instructions from Clara. The feed loaded slowly, pixel by pixel, revealing the attic room in grainy colour. Eliza was there, curled on the narrow cot, knees drawn to her chest. She looked thinner than Amelia remembered, her once vibrant red hair dull and matted. A plate of half-eaten toast sat on the small table beside her, crumbs scattered like evidence of another lonely meal. Amelia zoomed in, heart hammering. Eliza's eyes were open, staring at nothing. Then, as if sensing the lens, she turned her head slightly toward the camera's hidden position in the rafters. For a moment, their gazes seemed to meet across the impossible distance of flaws and lies. Amelia's hand trembled so badly she nearly dropped the phone. She set it down and gripped the counter, breathing in short bursts. "She's real," she whispered to the empty kitchen. "She's been here the whole time." The realization hit in waves. Every anniversary dinner, every quiet Christmas morning, every time Victor had kissed her goodnight, there had been Eliza upstairs, listening to their laughter filter through the floorboards. The thought made bile rise in Amelia's throat. She rushed to the sink, retching dryly. When the nausea passed, anger took its place, hot, sharp, cleansing. She couldn't confront Victor yet, not without proof that would hold in court, that would strip him of every defense. Clara had been clear about that last night on the phone, her voice steady despite the late hour. "We build the case brick by brick. Photos, videos, financials, witnesses. Then we bury him." Amelia dressed quickly, jeans, a loose sweater, hair pulled back, and slipped out the back door before the neighbourhood stirred. She drove to the library where Clara worked, the familiar route feeling foreign now, as if the town itself had conspired in the deception. The library was quiet, smelling of old paper and polished wood. Clara was already there, waiting in the reference section with 2 steaming mugs and a stack of legal books. "You look like hell," Clara said bluntly, pushing a mug toward her. "I feel like hell." Amelia sank into the chair. "I watched the feed this morning. She's just sitting there, like she's given up." Clara's expression softened. "Then we don't let her. Show me." Amelia pulled up the app. They watched in silence as Eliza slowly rose, paced the small space, 5 steps one way, 5 back, then sat again, head in hands. Clara noted timestamps, angles, visible details, the chain bolted to the floor, the barred window high up, the bucket in the corner that served as a toilet. "This is kidnapping, false imprisonment, fraud on the estate. We have digital evidence now." "But how do we get her out without him knowing?" Amelia's voice cracked. "He checks on her every day. If he sees the door tampered with..." "We don't move yet. We observe, we document, and we dig into why." Clara slid a yellow legal pad across the table. "Start with the money. Inheritance was the motive, right? Let's trace it." They spent the next 3 hours buried in records. Amelia had brought a USB drive with scanned documents from Victor's home office. Deeds, bank statements, insurance policies. Clara cross-referenced them with public records on the library computer. Patterns emerged quickly. The property had been valued at over $4 million when their parents died. Eliza's death triggered a clause in the will. If one sister predeceased the other without issue, the full estate passed to the survivor. Victor had married Amelia 6 months after the funeral. Coincidence? Hardly. Bank transfers showed large sums moving from the joint account to offshore investments Victor controlled. One entry caught Amelia's eye. A payment of $150,000 to a private clinic in the city, dated 2 weeks before Eliza's disappearance. Medical expenses, Clara muttered. For what? Amelia remembered something then. A vague conversation years ago. Victor mentioning a consultant who helped with paperwork for missing persons cases. He said it was for a client, she recalled. But he was nervous. I thought it was just work stress. Clara typed furiously. Let's search that clinic. Results popped up. Discreet services, including private evaluations, sedation protocols, even body transport for deceased loved ones. Amelia felt the room tilt. They helped him stage it. The hiking trip, the backpack in the river. Someone planted it. By noon, they had a timeline sketched out. Day -14, payment to clinic. Day -7, Victor takes Eliza hiking alone. Amelia had been at a conference. Day 0, Eliza reported missing. Day +3, body never found, declared dead in absentia. Day +180, Victor proposes to Amelia. Day +210, marriage. Ongoing, monthly maintenance transfers to an unnamed account. Amelia stared at the dates. He planned this for months, maybe years. Clara closed the laptop. We need more. Physical proof from the attic. And we need to talk to her, really talk, without him suspecting. That afternoon, Amelia returned home alone. Victor was still out. She climbed to the attic quietly, heart in her throat. The partition door was unlocked. Victor must have been careless in his haste that morning. She slipped inside. The room was smaller up close, oppressive. Eliza sat on the cot, back to the door. She didn't turn at first. Eliza, Amelia whispered. The figure stiffened. Slowly, she rotated. Her face was gaunt, eyes sunken, but recognition sparked like a match in darkness. Amelia? Her voice was hoarse, barely audible. Is this real? Or another dream? Amelia knelt, tears streaming. It's real. I'm here. I'm getting you out. Eliza reached out a trembling hand. Their fingers met, cold skin against warm. He told me you believed I was dead, that you mourned me. He showed me photos of the funeral, of you crying at the grave. There was a grave, Amelia said bitterly. An empty one. Eliza laughed, a broken sound. He fed me lies every day. Said the money was running out, that soon he'd let me go. Then he'd disappear for weeks. I thought you'd moved on. Married someone else. I married him. The confession tasted like ash. I married the monster who did this to you. Eliza's eyes widened. Victor? You're Victor? Amelia nodded, unable to speak. For a long moment, silence. Then Eliza whispered, He was always jealous. Of us. Our bond. When Mum and Dad died, he saw his chance. He said if I fought, he'd make sure you suffered too. So I stopped fighting. Amelia gripped her sister's hand tighter. You don't have to anymore, but I need time, evidence. I can't risk him hurting you worse. Eliza nodded weakly. The journal, under the mattress. I wrote everything. Dates, what he said. It's not much, but... Footsteps echoed below. Amelia froze. Victor was home early. I have to go, she hissed. I'll come back, I promise. She slipped out, re-locking the partition, heart pounding as she descended. In the hallway, she composed herself just as Victor appeared at the bottom of the stairs. Darling, you're home early too. He smiled, that same charming smile she'd once loved. Library run, she said smoothly. Research for a volunteer project. He climbed the stairs, kissed her cheek. She fought the urge to recoil. Good. I missed you. That night, dinner was torture. Victor talked about his day, fabricated meetings, imaginary clients, while Amelia nodded, smiled, asked questions. Under the table, her foot tapped restlessly. After he retired to his study with a glass of scotch, she retreated to the guest room, claiming a headache. There, she reviewed the footage again. Victor had visited Eliza that evening, brought food, spoken softly. Soon, love. The investments are paying off. Then freedom. Lies upon lies. Amelia saved every clip to an encrypted cloud drive, then texted Clara. More proof. Journal exists. Need PI. Clara replied instantly. Already on it. Man named Thorne. Ex-cop. Discreet. Meeting tomorrow. Sleep came in fragments, haunted by dreams of chains and empty graves. Morning brought resolve. She met Thorne at a quiet cafe downtown. He was mid-50s, grizzled, eyes sharp. Miss Hartley. Clara filled me in. Ugly business. Amelia slid a folder across. Printouts, timelines, screenshots. I need background on Victor, deep, and on that clinic. Thorne flipped through. Offshore accounts. Fake death staging. This isn't amateur hour. Could be dangerous.
I know, but my sister's life depends on it.
He nodded. I'll start digging, discreetly. No contact unless necessary. And you, act normal. No changes in routine. Back home, Amelia forced normalcy. She gardened, cooked, laughed at Victor's jokes, but every glance upward felt like a promise to Eliza. Days blurred. Thorne reported piecemeal. Victor had a sealed juvenile record, assault, covered up by family money. The clinic had lost its license years ago after irregularities with patient transfers. One former employee had vanished after threatening to talk. Then, a breakthrough. Thorne sent a photo. Victor, 10 years younger, at a bar with a man matching the clinic director's description. They were toasting. Amelia stared at it. Proof of conspiracy. But Victor grew suspicious. You've been quiet, he said one evening, watching her over wine. Something on your mind? Just tired, she lied. He reached for her hand. She let him, skin crawling. That night, she sneaked up again. Eliza was weaker, feverish. Infection, she murmured. From the bucket. He won't get medicine. Amelia's blood boiled. She promised antibiotics, stole some from the medicine cabinet. As she left, she heard Victor on the phone downstairs. The transfer cleared? Good. Make sure it's untraceable. She froze on the landing. He was moving money again, preparing for something. The next day, Clara called. Thorne found a witness, the fake coroner who signed the death certificate. He's willing to talk for immunity. Hope flickered. But that evening, Victor announced, "Business trip tomorrow. 3 days. You'll be okay alone?" Amelia smiled sweetly. "Of course." Inside, triumph surged. 3 days. Time to act. As he packed, she slipped into the attic one last time. Eliza clutched the antibiotics like a lifeline. "Soon," Amelia whispered. "We're ending this." Eliza managed a faint smile. "Tell me one thing. Did you ever stop loving me?" "Never," Amelia said fiercely. "Not for a second." Downstairs, Victor called up. "Amelia, coming to bed?" She descended, mask in place. "Coming." The threads were unraveling. Soon, the whole tapestry of lies would collapse. The police cruiser lights painted the Victorian mansion in pulsing red and blue as dawn broke over Eldridge. Amelia stood on the porch steps, arms wrapped tightly around herself against the chill, watching Detective Ramirez and Officer Patel approach. She had made the call from Clara's car an hour earlier, voice calm but edged with steel. "My sister is alive. She's been held captive in my attic for 5 years by my husband." Victor opened the door in his silk robe, hair artfully dishevelled as though he'd just rolled out of bed. His easy smile faltered when he saw the uniforms. "Mr. Hartley," Ramirez began, tone flat and professional. "We have credible reports of unlawful confinement and possible kidnapping on these premises. We'd like to conduct a search." Victor's laugh was sharp, rehearsed. "Kidnapping? In my own home? This has to be some misunderstanding. My wife's been under a lot of stress lately. Grief does strange things." Amelia stepped into the doorway behind him. Her eyes were red-rimmed but dry now, the tears spent. "No misunderstanding, Victor. Eliza is upstairs, right where you left her." His jaw tightened for a fraction of a second, long enough for Ramirez to notice. "Eliza died years ago, Amelia. We both know that. You cried at her memorial." "I cried because I believed you," she said quietly. "I believed everything you told me." Patel moved forward. "Sir, step aside. We have consent from the homeowner, Mrs. Hartley, to search." Victor's gaze flicked to Amelia, something dark and wounded flashing there before the mask returned. "You're making a terrible mistake." But he stepped aside. Amelia led them up the narrow attic stairs, each creak sounding like an accusation. The partition door stood slightly ajar. She had left it that way after her last visit to Eliza. Ramirez pushed it open with a gloved hand. The hidden room smelled of damp stone, unwashed linens, and despair. Eliza sat on the edge of the cot, blanket pulled around her thin shoulders. When the flashlight beams hit her face, she flinched, raising a hand to shield her eyes. "Mom?" Ramirez asked softly. "Can you tell us your name?" Eliza's lips moved soundlessly at first. Then, in a voice cracked from disuse, "Eliza. Eliza Hartley." Patel radioed for medics while Ramirez knelt, keeping distance. "We're here to help you. You're safe now." Eliza looked past them to Amelia, who had frozen in the doorway. Tears spilled down Eliza's hollow cheeks. "You came," she whispered. "You really came." Amelia crossed the small space in 3 strides and dropped to her knees, pulling her sister into a careful embrace. Eliza was fragile, bones sharp under skin, but she clung back with surprising strength. "I'm sorry," Amelia sobbed into her hair. "I'm so sorry, I didn't know." Paramedics arrived minutes later. They wrapped Eliza in a thermal blanket, checked vitals, started an IV. She let them work without protest, eyes never leaving Amelia's face. Victor watched it all from the hallway, cuffed now, expression blank. When Patel read him his rights, he only said one thing. "This is all a misunderstanding. You'll see." They didn't. At the hospital, Eliza was admitted to a private room under guard. Doctors catalogued the damage methodically. Severe malnutrition, vitamin deficiencies, chronic anemia, pressure sores on her back and hips, a low-grade infection in her lungs. Psych eval flagged severe PTSD, dissociation, learned helplessness. Amelia refused to leave her side. She sat in the uncomfortable chair, holding Eliza's hand while machines beeped softly. Clara arrived mid-morning with coffee and a change of clothes for Amelia. "How is she?" "Alive," Amelia said, the word feeling like a miracle. "That's enough for now." Eliza slept most of the day, waking in fits. Each time, she reached for Amelia first. In one lucid moment, she asked, Did he ever feel guilty?" Amelia thought of Victor's calm face as the cuffs clicked shut. If he did, he hid it well. That evening, Detective Ramirez returned with a tablet full of photos. The attic room from every angle, the journal pages scanned, financial records Thorne had pulled. "We've got enough for multiple felony charges," she said. "Kidnapping in the first degree, false imprisonment, conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse if we stretch the timeline. The estate angle will bring in the feds." Amelia nodded. "What about bail?" "Unlikely. Flight risk, danger to witnesses, your sister especially. He's staying put." Flashbacks haunted Amelia that night as she dozed in the chair. She remembered Victor suggesting the hiking trip. Just the two of us, bonding time before the wedding. She'd been away at a conference, trusting him implicitly. When he called sobbing about Eliza slipping into the river, she'd driven through the night to comfort him. He'd held her while she cried, whispering, "We'll get through this together." All while Eliza lay drugged in the trunk of his car, then chained in their attic. The next day brought the first therapy session. Dr. Mehta, a soft-spoken woman with kind eyes, spoke to Eliza alone at first, then invited Amelia in. Eliza's voice was steadier now, fueled by nutrients and anger. "He told me you'd moved on. Showed me pictures. Your engagement announcement in the paper. The house redecorated. Said you were happy without me dragging you down." Amelia's chest ached. "I was broken without you. I know that now." Eliza looked at her hands. "He controlled the narrative. If I got angry, he'd punish me. Lights off, food withheld. He called it teaching patience. Said the family fortune needed protecting from my recklessness." Dr. Mehta noted quietly, "Classic abuser tactics. Isolation, gaslighting, intermittent reinforcement." Later, alone with Amelia, Eliza asked the question that had festered for years. "Why keep me alive at all?" Amelia had asked herself the same thing. Thorne's investigation provided part of the answer. Letters Victor had written but never sent. One read, "They're too close. Always have been. But if I remove one, the other is mine. And the money stays in the family. My family." Jealousy, possession, greed dressed up as love. The media storm hit by day 3. Sister presumed dead, found alive in attic. Husband arrested. Reporters swarmed the hospital entrance. Amelia issued one statement through Clara. My sister and I are focusing on healing. We ask for privacy. Inside the room, they ignored the noise. Eliza started physical therapy. Simple leg lifts, arm raises. She smiled the first time she stood with a walker, shaky but upright. Amelia brought old photos from home, the two of them at 10, arms around each other at the county fair. At 16, sneaking out to a concert. At 22, hugging goodbye before college. They traced the timeline of their lives, filling in the missing years with stories. One night, Eliza whispered, I used to dream you'd find me, that you'd kick down the door like in those movies. But the dreams always ended with you walking away, believing I was gone. I never stopped looking for answers, Amelia said. I just didn't know the question was, where is she? Instead of, why did she leave? They cried together then, cleansing, necessary tears. Outside, the case built. Accomplices surfaced. The clinic director who'd supplied sedatives, the notary who'd backdated documents. Arrest warrants followed. Victor remained silent in custody, but his empire crumbled. Bank accounts frozen, properties seized pending forfeiture. Amelia visited the mansion once, under police escort, to collect clothes and mementos. Standing in the attic, looking at the empty cot, she felt the weight of every lost day. She took Eliza's journal, the one thing that had kept her sister sane. Back at the hospital, she read passages aloud. Eliza listened, then said, Burn it when this is over. I don't want to carry his words anymore. Amelia promised she would. The courtroom smelled of polished wood, stale coffee, and nervous sweat. Sunlight slanted through tall windows, catching dust motes that danced like tiny witnesses. Amelia sat in the front row of the gallery, dressed in simple black, hands folded tightly in her lap. Beside her, Eliza, still thin but stronger now, held her hand. 5 months had passed since the attic door opened. 5 months of depositions, therapy, nightmares, and slow healing. Today was the preliminary hearing that would decide if Victor would face trial for kidnapping, false imprisonment, fraud, and conspiracy. Victor sat at the defense table in a charcoal suit that looked too expensive for the occasion. His hair was neatly combed, face clean-shaven. He looked like the successful real estate developer everyone once admired. When the bailiff called the court to order, he turned slightly and met Amelia's eyes. For a heartbeat, something flickered there. Regret, perhaps, or calculation. Then he looked away. The prosecutor, Ms. Elena Vasquez, laid out the case methodically. She projected crime scene photos of the attic room onto the screen. The cot, the chains, the bucket, the barred window. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Next came bank records showing monthly transfers to the clinic that had supplied sedatives. Then the journal entries, read aloud in Eliza's own trembling voice from the earlier deposition recording. Day 1142, the recording played. He says the money is almost secure, that soon he'll let me go. I don't believe him anymore. Victor's lawyer, a silver-haired man named Hargrove, objected frequently. Relevance, hearsay, prejudicial. But the judge overruled most. When Vasquez called Amelia to the stand, the room fell silent. Amelia walked forward, chin high. She swore the oath without hesitation. Mrs. Hartley, Vasquez began, Can you describe your relationship with the defendant prior to October 15th of last year? I believed we were happily married, Amelia said evenly. For 10 years. I trusted him completely. And when did you learn the truth? The night I found the hidden room in the attic. My sister, presumed dead for 5 years, was alive inside it. Hargrove rose for cross-examination. He adjusted his glasses, voice smooth. Mrs. Hartley, you lived in that house with Mr. Hartley for a decade. You never heard unusual noises? Never questioned the locked attic? Never suspected anything amiss? Amelia met his gaze. I heard thumps sometimes. He said it was the house settling. I believed him. Love makes you blind. Love, Hargrove repeated, letting the word hang. Or perhaps convenience. The estate was substantial. With your sister gone, it all became yours, and then his. Amelia's jaw tightened. I didn't know she was alive. If I had. But you didn't, he pressed. You remarried quickly, moved on. Perhaps too quickly. Vasquez objected. Argumentative. Sustained, the judge said. Hargrove changed tack. You installed cameras without telling your husband. You hired a private investigator. You entered the attic repeatedly without his knowledge. Doesn't that suggest premeditation on your part? To frame him? Amelia's voice stayed calm. It suggests I was trying to save my sister's life. When Eliza took the stand later, the courtroom held its breath. She walked slowly, still using a cane for balance. Her red hair was pulled back, face pale but composed. Mrs. Hartley, Vasquez asked gently, can you tell us what happened the day you disappeared? Eliza's voice was soft but clear. Victor invited me on a hike. Said it was to celebrate Amelia's upcoming wedding. We drove to the river trail. He offered me water. It tasted strange. I woke up in the attic, chained. He told me Amelia thought I was dead, that the police had found my backpack, that if I made noise, he'd make sure Amelia suffered too. Tears slid down her cheeks, but she didn't stop. He visited every few days, brought food, medicine when I was sick. Always said it was temporary, that the inheritance needed protecting. Hargrove's cross was gentler with her, perhaps sensing the jury's sympathy. Ms. Hartley, did my client ever physically harm you? Not with his hands, she said. He starved me when I argued, turned off the lights for days. That's harm enough. After testimony, the judge called a recess. Amelia and Eliza stepped into the hallway. Clara waited with water bottles and quiet support. He's going to walk, Eliza whispered. I can feel it. His lawyer's twisting everything. Not if we keep going, Amelia said. We have the truth. But outside the courthouse that afternoon, Victor was released on bail. $500,000, ankle monitor, no contact order. Hargrove had argued successfully that Victor was no flight risk and posed no immediate danger. Amelia felt ice in her veins. That night, back at the small rented apartment they now shared, sleep wouldn't come. Eliza dozed fitfully on the couch. Amelia sat by the window, staring at the streetlights. Her phone buzzed at 2:17 a.m. Unknown number.
I never wanted to hurt you, either of you.
Come to the house, alone. Let me explain. Victor. She stared at the message. Every instinct screamed no. But another part, the part that had loved him once, wondered if there was one last truth to uncover. Against her better judgment, she drove to the mansion at dawn. The ankle monitor meant he couldn't leave, but he could still be inside. She parked down the street, walked the rest of the way, heart hammering. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the house felt different, colder, emptier. Victor stood in the living room, back to her, looking out the garden window. You came, he said without turning. I want answers, Amelia replied. The real ones. He faced her then. His eyes were tired, almost human. I loved you, both of you. But you were always hers first. Always the two of you against the world. When your parents died, I saw my chance. I thought, if I removed one piece, the picture would be complete. Just us. And the money would keep us safe. Safe? Amelia's voice cracked. You chained her like an animal. I kept her alive, he said, as if that excused everything. I could have killed her. I didn't. Amelia stepped closer. You destroyed us. Victor moved suddenly, pulled a small pistol from his pocket. Not aimed at her, at himself. I can't go to prison, he whispered. Not for this. Amelia froze. Put it down, Victor. He shook his head. Tell Eliza I'm sorry. Tell her I thought I was protecting the family. Before she could speak, he raised the gun higher. Amelia lunged, not for the weapon, but for his arm. They collided. The gun fired once, into the ceiling. Plaster rained down. She wrestled him to the floor, knee on his chest, screaming for help. Neighbours heard the shot. Police arrived within minutes. Victor was taken back into custody, attempted suicide charge added to the list. Later, at the station, Amelia gave her statement. Eliza arrived, pale but steady, and hugged her sister tightly. He almost took the coward's way out, Eliza said. He almost took everything, Amelia replied. In the days that followed, more letters surfaced, Victor's private journals hidden in a safe. They confirmed the motive: obsessive jealousy, fear of losing control, greed masked as love. The case against him solidified. The confrontation had been raw, ugly, final. Betrayal had worn many faces: Victor's charm, his lies, his gun. But Amelia and Eliza had faced it together. The trial would come, justice would follow. For now, they walked out of the police station into morning light, holding hands, unbroken. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Every day the courtroom filled with reporters, curious locals, and a handful of women who had come because the story felt too familiar. Husbands who smiled while hiding darkness. Amelia and Eliza attended together, sitting side by side in the same front row seats. They no longer held hands constantly. The need for constant reassurance had faded into something quieter, more permanent. They simply existed in the same space, breathing the same air, and that was enough. Prosecutor Vasquez presented the case like a surgeon, precise, unflinching. She called forensic accountants who traced every dollar Victor had siphoned from the estate. She played audio from the attic cameras, Victor's soft, coaxing voice promising Eliza release soon, followed by the metallic clink of the food tray being set down. She introduced the clinic director, who had taken a plea deal and testified in a flat monotone about supplying sedatives and falsifying records for a generous fee. Victor's defense tried to paint him as a man overwhelmed by financial pressure, a protector who made terrible choices. Hargrove even suggested Eliza had been complicit at first, a willing participant in some family scheme gone wrong. The gallery murmured in disbelief. Eliza, when recalled to the stand for rebuttal, looked straight at the jury. "I was 28 years old," she said. "I trusted my sister's fiancé. He drugged me, chained me, and told me my sister believed I was dead. For 5 years, I counted days on scratches in the wall. That is not complicity. That is survival." The jury deliberated for 9 hours. When they returned, the foreman read the verdict without hesitation. Guilty on all counts. First-degree kidnapping, false imprisonment, conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, and abuse of a vulnerable adult. The courtroom exhaled as one. Victor sat motionless, staring at the table. No outburst, no tears. Just the slow collapse of a carefully constructed mask. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, spoke directly to Victor. "You did not merely deprive one woman of her freedom. You stole 5 years from 2 sisters, destroyed trust in the most intimate bond a person can have, and profited from their pain. This court finds no redeeming circumstance. You are sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole." Victor was led away in cuffs. He did not look back. Afterward, outside the courthouse, Amelia and Eliza stood in pale winter sunlight. Photographers clicked, but the sisters ignored them. Clara waited nearby with 2 paper cups of hot chocolate. "It's over," Eliza said, voice small. "Not over," Amelia corrected gently. "Just beginning again." They sold the Victorian mansion within months. No one wanted to live in a house with such history. It sat empty for weeks before a developer bought it to convert into apartments. Amelia and Eliza watched from across the street the day the demolition crew arrived. They did not cry. They simply turned and walked away. With the proceeds, carefully divided and cleaned through probate, they bought a modest 2-bedroom house on the edge of town. White siding, small garden, no attic. Eliza took the larger bedroom because she still woke, sometimes convinced the door was locked. Amelia painted the walls soft blues and greens, colours that felt like breathing room. Eliza began therapy twice a week and, on her own, started painting. At first, the canvases were dark. Shadowed figures, locked doors, chains rendered in thick black lines. Over months, the colours shifted. Reds for anger, yellows for dawn, finally greens and lavenders for hope. She exhibited her work at a small local gallery under the name E. Hartley. The pieces sold quietly, and the money went to a shelter for domestic abuse survivors. Amelia wrote, not a tell-all memoir, too raw, too exploitative, but a quiet book titled The Years Between. It was part memoir, part reflection on trust, grief, and the slow work of rebuilding. She dedicated it to Eliza, to the sister who waited, and to every woman still waiting to be believed. It found a modest but devoted readership. Women's groups, book clubs, survivors who wrote her letters saying, "I thought I was alone." They travelled together for the first time in 6 years. A week in a coastal village. Nothing dramatic, just walks on the beach, fish tacos, sunsets. Eliza collected shells. Amelia took photos. One evening, sitting on the sand, Eliza said, "I used to dream of the ocean. When the attic got too quiet, I'd imagine waves instead of silence." Amelia reached over and tucked a strand of red hair behind her sister's ear. "Now you get the real thing." Years passed in ordinary ways that felt miraculous. Eliza's health returned slowly. Weight gained, hair shiny again, laugh lines appearing where hollows once were. Amelia started volunteering at the library again, this time running a support group for women rebuilding after betrayal. They laughed more than they cried. They argued over silly things, whose turn it was to cook, what movie to watch. And those arguments felt like gifts, because they were normal. On the 5th anniversary of the trial, they returned to the river trail where Eliza had disappeared. The path was overgrown now, wildflowers crowding the edges. They carried a small wooden box containing the last page of Eliza's attic journal, the one that read simply, "Today I heard her voice. She's coming." They scattered the ashes of that page into the water. The current took them gently. "We're free," Eliza said. Amelia nodded. "We always were. We just had to remember." They stood shoulder to shoulder until the sun dipped low, then turned back toward the car. The past no longer walked behind them like a shadow. It had become part of the path they had already crossed. In the quiet house that night, Eliza painted while Amelia read. The radio played softly in the background. Outside, the world turned without them needing to control it. Inside, two sisters lived side by side, not chained by blood or money or lies, but held together by choice. And that was the truest justice of all.